Hi, I'm Zibby Owens, the creator and host of the award-winning podcast that you're listening to right now. Thank you so much, called Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. It is a daily podcast, 365 days a year, and each day we talk to an author about all of the things related to their career, their book, their life, and more in 30 minutes or less, because who has time? I am now an author myself, although I wasn't when I started this podcast, and you can get my new memoir, Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature, wherever books are sold starting July 1st, and my children's book, Princess Charming. You can learn more about me at zibbyowens.com, but really you're here to learn more about the authors, and that is what we're going to do. Also, be sure to check out all the other podcasts in the Zcast Podcast Network. You can learn more at zcastnetwork.com and definitely check out those shows as well. Lizzie Damilola Blackburn is the author of Yinka, Where Is Your Huzband?, a novel. Born and raised in London, Lizzie is a British-Nigerian writer who won the literary consulting Pen Factor writing competition in 2019 with an early draft of her debut novel. She has been on the receiving end of the question in the title of her novel many times and now lives with her husband in Milton Keynes, England. Welcome, Lizzie. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss Yinka, Where Is Your Huzband?
Thanks for having me.
You probably say it better with your amazing accent.
Husband.
You did such a great job of developing these characters and immediately getting us in the scene of the twerking pregnant woman and the praying moms and the aunties and the whole thing, and nobody understanding that to work in an investment bank you could do 8,000 different things.
Yeah.
It'd be like IT support. It doesn't matter. But anyway, tell listeners what your novel is about and how you ended up writing about this.
Yeah, so Yinka, Where's Your Husband is a rom-com, and it follows Yinka, who is a British Nigerian woman who lives in South London. And Yinka is, her love life is a hot mess right now because her very traditional Nigerian mum and her many, many aunties are pressuring her to settle down. And then her cousin had the audacity to get herself engaged. And so Yinka decides to take her love life into her own hands, and she sets up this plan in the form of a spreadsheet to find a date in time for her cousin's wedding. But then what kind of starts off as a very simplistic goal turns into something way more drastic, and Yinka feels as though she has to change herself in order to find love. So in addition to this being a love story, it's also a story of self-discovery, which she goes on with the help of her amazing friends. And funny enough, Yinka's story started off as a short story that I had on a blog that I ran back in 2014, 2015. So this blog was called Christian Date Dilemmas because at the time I was looking for, mainstream romance fiction with a Christian protagonist, and I couldn't find any. So I decided to do something about it. And on this blog, I had different short stories with a Christian protagonist, and it all had some sort of date dilemma. And Yinka was one of them. And her story was inspired by my experience because even though I was only, in my early mid-20s, my dear mum, was asking me, when are you going to settle down? Where's your husband? Where's your boyfriend? And so that was kind of the inspiration behind it. But the idea to turn into a novel came later on. So I went to this blogging workshop and I met this fantastic author. And as all writers do, I want to get feedback on my writing. So I shared my blog with her. And in addition to giving me some really helpful feedback, she said, do you know what? I really love this Yinka character. I feel like she turned it into a novel. And I guess the rest is history.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to make you repeat that story. I know I've heard you say it on other, NPR and all these other places and on your website
fine.
and everything. But, for those who didn't learn that until now, there you go. I love how you decided to share 10 installments on the bookseller about how this book got made with your experience and your editor's experience. That was genius. Tell me about that. I loved that. I want to do something. I don't know. It's amazing. I love it. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So that was actually sparked by my former editor, Katie. She's left Penguin now, but she was great. And she felt like it would just be a good idea to give writers an insight into the publishing journey. And because I was so consumed with trying to write my manuscript, I never really thought about the publishing process and what that entails. So for me, it was a chance not just to document my experience, but also now it's a good chance for me to reflect back and to see how far I've come. And hopefully, it'll be helpful to other writers out there who kind of feel like the publishing industry is some kind of like mystery.
Yes. No, I love it. I love how your editor was like trying to wear her nicest clothes to come meet you and was like all nervous because she hadn't met you in real life. It's so cute. It's awesome. That's really great. And I do feel sometimes feels like this, closed box world, right? Where you don't know what happens behind the curtain. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a very unique way to share the journey. So for people listening, go to the bookseller and search up Lizzie, or maybe just put in Yinka, where is your husband? And you'll find it. What part of that whole process? I know there was a part about the cover. Tell me about the cover journey, and looking at your two covers now. Tell me about having these two very different covers for different markets.
Well, first of all, I absolutely love them. Like, people ask me which one's your favorite, but actually I love them both. I think they're great, colorful and bright. The process was quite different. So I was more included in the US process. And I think it's because they wanted to get my insight as a British Nigerian. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to kind of give some feedback on a few iterations before we reached the final version. But with the UK one, I didn't know what was happening until like months later. And I think that's kind of standard practice, because the reason why did they want to include the authors, because we're not the expert, and sometimes we might come with these ideas which might sound great, but they know the market and they know what sells well. And I was told that, they had up to 100 iterations with the cover, because they really wanted to get it right. And when they showed them in the end, I was absolutely blown away. And, I only had to offer a few tweaks, really. But yeah, I absolutely love it.
It's so cool. Very cool. I didn't notice at first it was a ring, but yeah, there it is on the British cover. Yeah. Anyway. So what was it like, the writing part, as you were trying to turn it from a short story to a novel? Like, did you have a day where you were like, now what do I do?
Oh my gosh. So the first year and a half, I was just winging it. I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest with you. And that meant that I kept on like starting, stopping, starting again. And it wasn't until I read this book called Story Engineering by Larry Brooks, and I recommend it to all authors. I think I even mentioned it in one of my bookseller columns. And that was kind of like my light bulb moment, because that's when I realized that storytelling is a craft, and there needs to be like certain elements in order for it to be engaging for the reader. So like themes and structure and conflicts and stakes. And it sounds basic, but at the time I didn't know that. So from that point forward, I started to invest in myself as a writer. So I attended like workshops, I did an online creative writing course, I read more, I connected with other writers as well. And yeah, the process was quite long. It took me like roughly 5 years to write Yinka. And I think one thing that I really struggled with was finding time. And also when I got married, I moved from London to Milton Keynes, but I was still working in London. So it was a 2-hour commute each way. And I just struggled to write on the train. But lockdown, in the end, was a blessing in disguise, because it gave me more time to write. And that's when I actually finished my manuscripts.
So was your mom really happy when she met your actual husband?
Oh, yeah, she loved him. And my dad as well.
What did he think about this being the topic of your book?
He was like, he always knew that I was going to be a writer at some point. Well, now he says that.
Let's give him all the credit.
Yeah. But my mom as well, because she read it within a week, and she doesn't really read like fiction. And yeah, she was so proud of me. And she was like, I can't believe like this came from your brain. Like, I really respect you. So that was really nice to hear, to get that, stamp of approval from my mom.
It is amazing that sometimes it takes a novel for people to understand what you're even thinking, right? Or who you are, or, communication, verbal communication can only go so far. But spending a year like honing your interior monologue. Yeah, it's funny. What are you working on now?
So I'm working on book 2. I haven't really told too many people except for my editors and my agent about it, but it's going to be... But
now you can tell me.
well, I would say it's going to be, another kind of colorful, vibrant book with like an ensemble of characters, which are hopefully as memorable as the one in Yinka.
Amazing. And is this going to be a movie?
What, Yinka or the...
Yinka.
Yes. Again, I can't say too much about it, but it has been snapped up for film rights. So amazing. Yeah, watch this space.
Oh my gosh, so cool. That's just, it's really exciting.
Thank you.
How has your life changed since having this book out?
Oh, wow. So it's meant that I can do it full time, which is amazing because that's like, a dream come true. And yeah, just like it feels so surreal and I just feel so grateful. Like every single day, I'm just like, I wake up in awe that, wow, this is my life. Because when I was writing Yinka, there were many times where I thought that would I ever reach the ends? Like I just kind of felt like I would constantly be working on a draft of Yinka. So yeah, it's just, I think anytime I'm feeling doubtful or I question myself, I just have to think back to how far I've come.
That's inspiring. I love
Yeah.
it. What
Thank
other
you.
advice would you have for aspiring authors?
Oh, I've got so many.
Great, let's
But,
hear it.
I would say invest in yourself and you're worth investing in. And, the internet is your friend. Like there's so like much free resources, like on YouTube, for example, and sign up to newsletters as well, because sometimes you'll get free advice from there or like and free worksheets as well. I would say call yourself a writer as well, like own it and don't feel afraid to tell people that you're writing. I feel like sometimes as writers, we can kind of be shy about that, but sometimes we have to put our work out there and get feedback in order to improve. And I would say, yeah, don't give up. Like you need to have a lot of self-belief as well, because, it is quite time consuming and, you will get rejected along the way. So you need to have that self-belief in yourself.
And what kind of books do you like to read?
I do love a good rom-com. Also love like mystery books as well, like literary books that kind of like touch on a range of issues. I love books that showcase like Black joy as well. And I'm very happy to see that a lot of books are coming out that are kind of like promoting that. Yeah, I said those are my go-to. Yeah.
Amazing. Excellent. And do you have your whole crew of aunties? Do you have like the same network of aunties, and are they also supportive of the work that you do?
Yeah, so like thankfully my aunties are not like the aunties in Yinka. Like I never got pressured from my aunties when I was single to get married. So my aunties now, yeah, they're very, very supportive. Like when it came to both my US book launch, which was virtual, and my in-person one in the UK, they were there cheering and, just being so super supportive. So I'm very blessed to have a very supportive network of friends, former colleagues, family members. So yeah, it really does help.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I was surprised actually in the book that there was so much pressure on her so young. Like I was expecting Yinka to be, I don't know, like 38, 39, but she was
Oh,
only
okay.
what, 31, 32?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
was like, what? I feel
And the
like
funny,
in New York, people are like, whatever, settle in.
it's funny because when I was writing Yinka, I was in my 20s and I was thinking to myself, how would a 31-year-old person behave? And I realized it's not much different from, being your 20s.
Oh my gosh. I just finished
Yeah.
reading a memoir about someone who was like, okay, I'm 38. I guess I should think about having a baby on my own. Like that was the book I read before yours. So I think after
Oh,
I got to
okay.
yours, I was like, she's got plenty
Oh,
of
she's young.
time. There's no rush. What will be, will be, You do a great job though of setting the scene, like the contrast between the crazy harried mom, on the ground changing diapers and like the career woman and this whole like, grass is always greener thing, right? Like you want what someone else has. Like, yes, you've given, like you didn't go to college, but look at you, you've got this amazing child and
Yeah.
you have this, it's almost like, it's like you can't win with life in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And I feel like social media has kind of perpetuated or fueled this idea that you need to have it all, but only because of like what people are portraying and what you see in like the highlight reels. And I just feel like it's impossible, and it's not fair for us to put expectation on ourselves and on others as well. So yeah, hopefully that can be something that people can relate to when they're reading her.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I really do think you have an amazing voice and
Oh, thank you.
pacing and all of the elements of storytelling. Like it's just so fun. It's like fun to read and makes you smile, but also makes you think. And yeah, I just love your voice. That's really my
Oh,
favorite.
thank you. Oh, that means a
So,
lot. Thank you.
anyway, I'm excited for your next adventure and all of that. So thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
And take care. Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.